Okay, let's go ahead and start. It's 8 o'clock. I would like to welcome you. My name is Phoebe Benziger, and I'm one of the four that helps work and get these programs together for the Montrose Forum. The others, Barbara Bynum, Kathy Hebers, and Judy Ann Files. I'm certain that you guys all are on our email list. Otherwise, you wouldn't just drive by and say, I'm going to come in and see what's going on. But hopefully you are on our email list. If you're not, and you know of somebody that would like to be on it, be sure and let us know or forward the email to them and they'll show up. We have some really good topics coming up in the weeks to come. We've had some really good ones in the past. I think you can watch them on YouTube, or you can always, we've had some great ones. So as people here know, it's worth your time to come to the forum because you learn a lot. So you're going to learn a lot today. Our speaker is Trish Thibodeau. Yeah, and I had to say that 9 times before I got that correct. So it's Trish Thibodeau. She works for Region 10. She is going to speak. She's going to do her own introduction, I see, so I'm not going to repeat what she's going to say. But Region 10 was recently awarded a $1.7 million USDA RISE grant, which is a Rural Innovation Stronger Economy grant to start an Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center in Olathe. And so they're looking for someone that'll answer the phone and say, hi, this is Phoebe, and I'm with the Rural Grant Entrepreneurship Center in Olathe. So that name could change, but what they're doing will not change. And it's absolutely fascinating. I've looked forward to this talk since I knew we were going to have it, or since I even read that you received the grant. Region 10 is, they do a lot, and this is another thing that they do. They're not just, I honestly didn't know. It's always a learning process for me, what Region 10. I do know during COVID they were critical for so many reasons. And I know that Trish lives in Olathe, so what's happening in Olathe, she'll have one eye on it all the time. It will be a great center. So I'm pleased and happy to introduce Trish to talk about what's going on in Olathe, the Region 10.
So we decided it's a good thing that my name isn't, first name isn't Phoebe, and I'd be Phoebe Thibodeau, and that would be a really hard name to say. So I'm really happy to be here today. So I'm Trish, and I'm with Region 10. So let me know if I'm too loud or if I'm not loud enough. So just people, my friends in the back, let me know. So quick introduction of myself. So I'm the Community Development Director at Region 10. And I've been on the Western Slope since 2014, came over, my husband grew up over here. Moved to Delta and became the Executive Director of Delta County Economic Development. My first day of work, I was at an economic gardening workshop with Region 10. So I kind of feel like I've been working with Michelle at Region 10 since my first day of work in 2014. And we've worked really closely together. So in 2019, I had the opportunity to come to Region 10 to work as the Community Development Director and jumped on that opportunity. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth again. So Region 10. Woohoo, I got that. So let me just go to, whoops. Oh, I lost a slide. Okay, it's not an exciting slide. People often ask how we got our exciting name of Region 10. So I think people know Region 10, but they know parts of Region 10. So I want to do just a real quick background of who we are and what we do. We are a regional planning organization and also act as the Area Agency on Aging, the Small Business Resources, and regional planning. So there are 14 planning regions in the state of Colorado. We are Region 10. And that is how we got our exciting name. So the things that we do, and I think it was Virgil who came upon this as we were talking about our work, is that we touch everybody's life in the region. So we do regional planning. We are an economic development district in working on regional economic development strategies to strengthen our community. We do community economic development. You'll hear a little bit about that during my conversation today. We have stood up and own and operate a regional broadband middle mile network. And because of the partnerships in that, we are extremely lucky to have the broadband service that we have. And then we also do transportation planning. So that's one piece of us. Small business resources. We have a business loan fund. We house the Western Colorado Small Business Development Center. We do business consulting and training, and then we also administer the enterprise zone tax credits for the state of Colorado. So we work with a lot of businesses, and certainly during COVID, we really worked with businesses and really have been increasing our work with supporting our small businesses. And then another huge thing that we do, and Eva's in the back, is our community living services. Really working to keep folks in their homes, providing services throughout the region. We have a wonderful new senior volunteer program that we just got over 100 volunteers in our first year, working with seniors throughout the region. Senior companion program, aging and disability resource center. So we're really doing a lot of things. So you may interact with one side, know that there's all these other sides to the agency. Okay, so I'm here today to talk about, and Region 10 is celebrating our 50th year this year. Very important to know. So for 50 years, we have been working to make our community better, and I think that's pretty exciting. And so through those years, we've had a lot of partnerships and a lot of projects. So I'm here today to talk about the yet-to-be-named Olathe RISE Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center. We're going to come up with a name soon. But to really understand how we were one of 11 programs across the country that was awarded this grant, you have to understand how we got there. So I'm going to step back and do some history. So I talked about that we do community economic development. And when the coal mines were closing down in Delta County, and I was at DSED, we were doing economic diversification planning. What do we do with coal mines closing down? And so one of the projects that we stood up was called Engage Delta County. It was an entrepreneurship, ag and energy initiative. And so we had partners on there, this will all come back to the rest of the story. Technical College of the Rockies housed the program. Delta, Colorado, City of Delta, Region 10, and then towards the end of the project, Valley Food Partnership came on. Engage was really great at starting to grow the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and there's a lot of words that I use, and so I'll try to explain what those mean. But we talk a lot about innovation, entrepreneurship, incubators. It's really supporting small businesses. And so we, in 2016, got a grant to start Engage, to start that programming. And they were doing really great things. They were working with a lot of food-based businesses. They were doing business challenges, getting entrepreneurs together, meet up. And they used to do this really great energy conference too. I don't know if the folks went up to Paonia. We went for 2 or 3 years, we did that conference. So one of the challenges with Engage, it never had a home. It never had a place. And so that grant funding ended in the middle of COVID, last year, March. And unfortunately, Engage did not continue, but we saw so much value in it. So, that's during that same time. This is downtown Olathe. And so in 2018, we were invited to begin working with the town of Olathe. They were looking at health equity issues, but realized in order to have health equity, they really needed to strengthen their economy. So we started working with them. And partners came together. The town of Olathe, Montrose Economic Development Corp, Montrose County, Sue has been very active on that. Making Olathe Better, which is a community-driven group, Region 10. And so we did an economic diversification project, did a study, what can we do to help stimulate the economy, grow the economy, and bring equity to the community. So 2 of the initiatives that came out of that was the Olathe Business Hub. They have no chamber. Olathe Business Hub started early before COVID, doing business of the month. They did downtown activities. We wanted to really start to bring more vibrancy and activity to downtown. And another initiative that we did was help them do was Conexion Co-working Space. And Conexion is downtown. They were able to get an office space or a building that wasn't being used. They got funding, they got it remodeled, and they now have a co-working space in downtown Olathe. And it's a really cool thing to see. We're working with them to help them do their grand kickoff, as they're just getting open, but they are open for membership. It is a great looking space. And last year, they did an entrepreneurship camp for 7th and 8th graders. And at that time, there was no carpeting, no furniture in there. And so what we're doing now is we're working with them to do a youth entrepreneurship camp for 7th and 8th graders at the end of this month. And that kind of all ties into this theme that you're going to hear from me today. So, I'm going to take some water. We're still back in March of 2021. So again, we're following the bouncing ball of how we got to this Olathe project. And CSU has a regional economic development institute. And we knew that they were starting to really look at Montrose and Delta County and seeing opportunity for food and beverage-based businesses. And they have an entrepreneurship center. So we started conversations with them in the spring of 2021. And then, in May of 21, Region 10, so we're talking about entrepreneurship, and really for us, this means grow our own. We have some programs that we help stand up across the region. Icelab is an innovation co-working space accelerator in Gunnison. They have a strong focus on outdoor recreation industry. That got stood up after the coal mine started shutting down in Gunnison. In the West End, when their coal mines were shutting down, we worked with the West End Economic Development Corporation, helped them secure an Economic Development Administration grant, really to work on entrepreneurship and small business development, in addition to outdoor rec and tourism. So, and then you'll see the little red people. Those are co-working spaces across our region that have been popping up. And then in Telluride, we have the Telluride Venture Network. And so as we were going through COVID and seeing the need for businesses, really hearing how businesses needed support and how core they are to our economy and to our success, we started seeing a really big gap. So we used to have Engage in Delta County, but our largest population center really had no entrepreneurial dedicated programming. And so we really saw a role for Region 10 to step in, to start to build the rural entrepreneurship ecosystem, work to support our smaller communities. Hinsdale is looking to start a co-working space. How do we support Uray? How do we continue to support the West End, which only has so much capacity? But also, how do we work with our small businesses in Montrose and Delta Counties that are startups, that are entrepreneurs? So in May, we applied for a grant to start a regional entrepreneurship program. We didn't find out till August or September that we got that grant. So why are we focusing on entrepreneurship? So we really believe that growing our own is important. What we heard a lot as we developed our regional economic development strategy is that we're not all about attracting anymore. We have people here. How do we support the businesses and people here to grow our own? And we know that an innovative-based economy and entrepreneurship brings resiliency, and it can attract people, and it can begin to attract our young people back. And it really creates a more resilient community. So you'll hear us talk a lot about grow our own, grow our own, grow our own. So now we're getting to, I think June of 2021. Found out about this grant. First time grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Development. They really focus on business development, and they had a new grant out called Rural Innovation Stronger Economy, RISE. So we just call it the RISE grant. And it was really a cool grant. You know, it was about leveraging community assets. And doing innovation centers for job and business development in low-income rural communities. It was about business formation. And so they had $20 million for the first round. And grants were going to be from $500,000 to $2 million. So you're looking at 10 to 15 grants probably across the country. So what was really unique about this grant, and if you're familiar with grants, you could do both construction, renovation, and operations in the same grant. That's practically unheard of. And so I jumped on a call with about 800 other people to learn about this grant. And I'm listening to the phone call, and they're talking about it must be broad stakeholder, you need to have higher ed involved, you're developing skilled workers, workforce base, and they want you to start an innovation center. And for them, an innovation center is really a place where there's opportunity for individuals and businesses to collaborate, to grow, deploy innovative processes, and that you provide for the USDA grant. You have to have an industry focus that you're going to be focusing on. So really cool, love the idea of it. And then they also talked about what they wanted to support is a rural job accelerator. So a program or service serving a rural low-income community that provides co-working, training, entrepreneurship, and business support. Really cool grant. And then it's like, well, this is due in August. I can't think of what we could do. I'm thinking about all the projects that people are working on, and trying to stand up. And it's like, I think I talked with Michelle, and it's like, it's really cool, but I just, I don't think we have it ready yet. So, this is where Virgil walks in the office, I think on July 7th, when Virgil worked with us. And Virgil was, or is on the Montrose County Housing Authority. So, Olathe, this is Main Street that I showed earlier. And then kind of around the corner, there's the Montrose County Housing Authority. And then there's this 6,500 square foot building. And it's been empty and vacant. It was the Boys and Girls Club. It used to be a daycare center that housed, I think, 150 kids at one point. I'm looking at Susan. And about 6,500 square feet. So Virgil's in the office. I remember sitting in the office with Michelle. He's like, this building is not activated, and we'd love to see it activated. And maybe we can go over there as directors and take a look at it and see if we have some ideas, or if we have ideas for a nonprofit to look at it. So we go over, and it has been a Boys and Girls Club. You walk in, you got your Ninja Turtles, you got a lot of low sinks, a lot of bathrooms. It's got good bones. So we walk in, it's like, ooh, it's got a commercial kitchen. Ooh, this is really cool. It's got, it's got a cafeteria space. It's like, huh. We walk through, this isn't a very good picture, but this is what could be a conference room. Again, more sinks. So we're looking at this, and this is the timeline. We go over as directors of Region 10. We're thinking about nonprofits. We're thinking about, could this be a child care facility? Again, could this be something for aging or mixed aging use? And Michelle and I we've worked with Engage, we've worked with, this standing up entrepreneurship. We see the commercial kitchen, it's got 2 floors, and we're like, we know what it could be. We know what it could be. We could make an innovation center. We could utilize this commercial kitchen. We could have Engage 2.0 and beyond and have a physical location. And since we've been working in Olathe, we have fallen in love with Olathe. I mean, the community there is so amazing. And to be able to do something in Olathe, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, there's this USDA grant that will do renovation and operations for an innovation center in a rural low-income community. But it's due in like 3 weeks. So we go back, we call Sue, and on Monday, July 12th, we do a walkthrough with Sue, and I'm trying to remember, it was our staff and a couple other people of, so what do you think about this? So what do you think about this? You know, do you think we can do this building? Does it look like it's structurally okay? And, you know, I think we had housing authority there. So, I mean, I think if anyone writes grants or develops projects, this is a really short period of time. This is really short. So, we bring our partners together. So what you'll notice is these are the partners who we've been working with. These are the partners we've been planning with. And so within a very short period of time, we start reaching out to our partners. We start talking with them. We're like, we have this idea, and we think it can serve Delta and Montrose counties. And the project for USDA needs a focus, and we think value-added manufacturing. We know from CSU research that there's opportunity there. We know that we got traction in Engage. We know that there's commercial kitchens popping up, and there's interest in value-added food manufacturing. And so, do you think we can do this? And I think what's so exciting about this project is based in Olathe, but immediately Montrose and Delta Counties were on board and saying, yes, we all need to support this. And you don't always see that if a project is located outside of a county. Town of Olathe was so excited. I think Lynette from the mob, Making Olathe Better, went to Michelle years ago and said, Michelle, I've got this great idea. We need a business incubator in Olathe. And Michelle's response is, give me a free space and I can get an incubator. So we approached, this would never have happened without Montrose County Housing Authority. We said, hey, what about us doing a long-term no-cost lease? We'll renovate the building, we'll update the building, and we'll activate the building and have it be an asset for the community. So they were on board. Conexion, we brought on Technical College of the Rockies because we know that they're doing micro-credentialing and they can do some workforce training for us. Colorado State University is bringing their research and their expertise. Bank of Colorado is coming in as a private partner on this. Making Olathe Better and Olathe Business Hub are those community-based organizations. And then we also brought on Valley Food Partnership. They're working with young farmers. They're working with the Montrose Farmers Market. And it made sense to bring them on for that food connection. So, sip of water. The yet to be named RISE Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center. That goes right in my notes. So, we, in those 3 weeks, applied for a $1.7 million grant. The total project is about $2.3 million. And we submitted it. We knew in talking with USDA that partnership was really important on this grant. And having both public and private partnership was really important on this grant. So we, knowing it's in a rural income, low-income community, knew we could put communication in. So this is about linking rural communities and entrepreneurs to markets. It's about building assets in rural communities so we can support the regional economy. It is about supporting the deployment of innovative products. We know we have innovative folks out there that are tinkering in their garage, that are making things, that are doing things. And so if we can provide a platform where they can take that to the next level, it's going to support our entire region. So what are we doing? So we are going to renovate the property, to update it and modernize it, to make it into an entrepreneurship center, with the target being Delta and Montrose counties. And the focus of this center will be on value-added manufacturing, so we're that ag center with a sub-focus on food and beverage businesses. And we are also going to work with other startups, businesses, but we'll have a primary focus, and I'll talk a little bit about that programming that we're going to be doing there. So as I said, we're going to focus on value-added manufacturing. We have this commercial kitchen. In our grant, we have money from both DOLA and USDA to buy additional equipment, to buy food processing equipment, food manufacturing equipment, so that businesses can have access to that commercial kitchen, and they can have access to business-specific training. As I said, we're focusing on those sole proprietors and startup businesses. The question we got asked the most is, well, what about Russell Stover's? Isn't this Russell Stover's? You're working with food-based businesses? I would usually respond as, we have a missing gap. We have bigger businesses that, when Russell Stover's gets up and going, can go in there. These are not businesses that are going to start in Russell Stover's. I think we'll be really lucky if we get one business that moves to Russell Stover's. But we have to fill that missing gap of working with those startups, working with those dreamers, giving them the tools and the opportunities that they want. And then we'll also focus on sole proprietors for other businesses. But if you think about the food businesses, think about food producers and packagers, caterers, food trucks, and other food-related businesses. We were up touring the Grand Junction Business Incubator, and they have a commercial kitchen. And they are getting more and more food trucks that are utilizing their space for different things. So my dream is that we can buy a test food truck that people can test out. So if anybody knows a food truck, would love it. So the commercial kitchen is going to be available to rent for cottage industries. And the kitchen, I updated this slide and I don't have it updated. Anyways, the kitchen and attached dining room could also be used for pop-up restaurants. We will also be doing a kitchen incubator program where we'll take a cohort through a 6 to 8 week class of how to get their product from idea to shelf, how you do the mass producing of whatever you're making. The other thing is also think about in value-added manufacturing. It's not always food. It could be body products. It could be other products that are made from agricultural products. So then upstairs, which you didn't see pictures of, we're going to have what we're calling a business hub, a business incubator center, where we can rent space at scale-up rate, and businesses can participate in accelerated programming, basically strengthening their businesses. So some folks are like, well, aren't you competing with the co-working space? And we really see the co-working space, Conexión, as a significant partner. And so they have businesses that are looking for something more than a co-working space. They're looking for more office space. And so this would help complement that. And then those businesses and startups are going to get support and services for business formation and expansion. Like I said, they may or may not be ad related. So we will be able to serve all businesses. We're going to have conference and training rooms, which can be used for trainings, virtual trainings, meetups, networking, and workshops. So we have funding in there so that we have the technology, not only do the renovation, but have the furniture and the technology so that we can meet and train in this hybrid world that we are in now. And Nancy's been doing amazing things with our Small Business Development Center on doing hybrid trainings, on-demand trainings. And so those, we see utilizing that. Let's see. We're going to do a Makerspace. So right now we're just starting with some 3D printers, and then we'll add based on needs and demand for technology, but we'll include at least some 3D printers and some other technology in this space so that folks have opportunity to tinker. And folks could be older folks, and folks could be younger folks. So kind of our annual programming that we're envisioning happening at the center is business challenges. You bring a cohort together, they get mentored, they get trained, they develop their business idea, and then at the end they do some sort of presentation pitch event where they get prizes. We did that in Delta. And it could be they get storefront space, cash prizes for business expenses. Leading edge for entrepreneurs, for those startups. And we want to be doing those in English and Spanish. We know that there is a high Spanish-speaking population in Olathe, and it's interesting, they're Main Street business owners. Over 50 or 60, I'm looking at Michelle, 60% are Hispanic women who are business owners in Olathe. So we want to make sure that we're meeting their needs too. We'll have our kitchen, food business accelerator program. We'll participate in things like West Slope Startup Week. There'll be monthly programming, virtual programming, entrepreneur events, no-cost consulting, and business mentoring. And one of the reasons that we're working with Conexión this year in helping them do the youth entrepreneurship program is we see that as part of this programming, is that we need to build the business leaders of tomorrow. We need to know our youth can stay here, start businesses, be successful, that there's resources for them. So we're really excited to be partnering with them on that. Yeah, this is an old slide deck. Huh. There we go. So we're starting the work. And so we have construction, as we all know, is a little bit more, we thought it was challenging a year ago when we wrote the grant. And so we know it's even more challenging now, but we do have an RFQ out for the remodeling. Our dream is that we can start this summer and be done in the fall. I wanted it done this month, but that didn't happen. We are in the process of hiring 2 positions, an entrepreneurship program manager and a kitchen program manager. Both of those positions will be based out of the Olathe Center once they are hired, but they're also going to work regionally. During this whole process, we also started seeing more and more commercial kitchens reaching out to us for business support and training, whether that's MATA, whether it's some initiatives up in Gunnison. And so we are also seeing a need that we can build kind of the commercial kitchens cluster and support those businesses in growth and development. So we went after a second READY grant to help supplement the USDA grant to hire a full-time kitchen program manager. So if you know anybody out there, those positions are posted. They are on our website. And we'll be really excited to get those going. They'll start off at our Montrose office initially. As I talked about, we are doing the Olathe Youth Entrepreneurship Camp for 7th and 8th graders. And we will be remodeling the facility this summer, and when that is done, we will be having a big kickoff celebration. And then what we are going to be doing is to begin some of that entrepreneurship programming, startup business, competitions, meetups at Conexión on Main Street, so that we start to have a presence in Olathe, and people start to see and hear what we're doing. There was a 5th one that I added this morning, but I can't remember what that is. Maybe it's in my notes here. Look ahead. Oh, yes. The other thing that we have started is we have what we're calling the RISE Steering Committee. And so one of the things about this USDA grant is that it wasn't only about programming, but it was about building community capacity and community leadership. And so we have a steering committee that's made of those initial partners that I put up earlier, but what we're also going to do is have private sector on that, and so that they can help guide the programming and the vision of the center, make sure that we're meeting the needs of businesses and the needs of the community, but also hopefully that starts to develop that relationship. And what's exciting is because we have 2 counties represented on that, is how do we build that, continue to build the relationship with Montrose and Delta Counties and their businesses. Let's see. That's what it's going to look like. So, oh, no, it's my old slide deck. The last slide wasn't on there. So, that is what we are doing in Olathe. I want to thank Susan for her and her team's support of this. We are so excited, and certainly Region 10 staff that's been on this journey with us, and Virgil, who used to be with Region 10 and bringing that vision, and Sue's support of it. It's so exciting when you pull together a project and everybody's on board. Everybody sees the vision. And, so having those partnerships, having Montrose County on board, Town of Olathe, Delta County, TCR, and we're gonna expand those partnerships too. Really make it so worthwhile that this large group of folks see the vision and feel the vision of the organization. So that is what we're doing. It's follow along and come to the grand opening when we get there. Let people know that we're hiring an entrepreneurship program coordinator and a kitchen program coordinator. So if you know any folks that are really interested in working with businesses in that way, we'd love to talk with them. And I'm going to look at Michelle and see if there's anything I missed. So one thing I am going to add in. One of the reasons we feel like this is definitely a partnership program, and it also makes sense to be housed under Region 10 because we have our small business center. We have Dan in the Business Loan Fund that can help businesses think about how you access capital, which is a huge challenge for rural businesses. We have Nancy and her team in Small Business Resources that really give that training and technical assistance and connection to mentors and coaches. So we feel like bringing that team into this really will help with the success of the businesses along with the other partners.
That was amazing, was it not? Let's give her a hand. It's kind of like a Shark Tank hits Olathe, right? That's great. So now we're open for questions. So does anybody have a question? Matt?
Thank you. So I have two questions. The first question is capacity for your conference training rooms. How many folks can that seat? And then the second question is, can you articulate more your TCR programming and opportunities for school-age children?
Yeah, so TCR as a partner in here, where we see them fitting in as we see needs for micro-credentialing, is that they could come in and fulfill some of those needs. We know that micro-credentialing is becoming more and more important for employees, for workers, employers. So while we have not developed that specific programming yet, that will be based on the folks that are coming through that programming. What was the first question?
Your conference rooms, how many folks can you have?
We'll tell you that when we put the design study. So what we see is, we'll have probably 2 smaller meeting rooms and a conference room, whether that's for 20 or whatnot. I think once we get those final drawings and designs done, we'll know better about that. But we see certainly, Valley Food Partnership as a partner and us doing our trainings there and such.
CMU Montrose, through Western Colorado Community College, has a culinary arts program already, curriculum established. Have you reached out to them to see about, I know we've had discussions about, do we want to add culinary arts, and the sticking point was no commercial kitchen. Is that an idea you would entertain?
So we have had some conversations with Steve at CMU. We know that WCC has the culinary arts. We are not necessarily looking at it as a certificate or associate program, but that's where for our kitchen, but we are open to opportunities and options. And so that's where I think in having that really 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks to develop that initial concept of partnerships, we left the door open for those opportunities where we definitely, that has been on our mind.
I don't really have a question, but I just have to make a comment. First of all, for those of you who aren't feeling the magic here, I want you to know that a lot of magic went into this project, and one of the main magicians is right up in the front room, because when this idea went from a brainstorming session with Michelle and others, and we were just kind of throwing spit at the wall and what could we do, and And it was Trish that made this happen. I mean, she got the second largest grant nationwide through USDA, and that's what really, that kind of was the spark. But it was also because the Housing Authority had this building where everybody else looked at that building and went, oh, you know, that building, nothing can happen with that building. We hate that building. That's no good. And Michelle and Trish, who I don't know what they were smoking, but they were like, no, this could be something. And I think Virgil kind of kicked that off. So I just want you to know that these projects don't happen in a vacuum. They happen because a lot of people come together and go, what if? What if? And that's what happened here. So I think Trish deserves a ton of credit, and really thank you.
It's the ton of work that happened in the years prior, and we were just lucky to be able to bring it all together. So it was all the work of everybody.
Sorry about that. I love new buzzwords. What is micro-credentialing?
Is Alan here? No. So micro-credentialing is a way, it's stacked credentialing. So if you think about TCR, they have certificate programs. And you could get a certificate in auto mechanics, things like that. Micro-credentialing is basically a way that an employee can get a stack of credentials. So it could be customer service, it could be in some finance area, it could be in X, Y, or Z. And it's much more targeted towards the need of employees, and it doesn't necessarily require all of the processes for associates, and someone may know this better than me, of explaining it. I know it in my head. But it's a way that workers can get trained and skilled up, but do it in smaller places, and they can bring a respected credential to an employer and say, this is the skill base that I have.
For example, with food, it could be Safe Food Him, or it could be sous chef, or something like that. So it's bringing those smaller, but you have some training in that area.
Mm-hmm. It's becoming more common and more demand for it as workers are looking to upskill and reskill.
So Trish, I'm just curious because I've been on the working end of grants. You wrote that grant in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you have to wait till you found out that you were awarded the grant?
Well, this is a pretty amazing grant. So we submitted it April 2nd. They had to award, and this is a federal grant, by September 30th. We found out on September 29th, but it was not public until February of this year, so we knew, we just couldn't say anything. So, so USDA was pretty amazing, and I also give them a lot of credit because if anyone's done federal construction projects, they can be cumbersome. They try to reduce the number of barriers, even on federal construction projects. So they were really thinking about rural communities and low-income rural communities and how can we help them make this happen.
Congratulations on getting the grant. That's huge, and a vision. So does anybody else have another question?
You mentioned other co-working spaces on the western slope. I'm curious if you've had discussions with the leaders of those co-working spaces on how to enhance the one in Olathe, since it's expected to serve as a supplement and partner for the Innovation Center.
Yes, let me go back to that slide. So what's interesting in the evolution of the co-working spaces on the western slope, proximity was started in Montrose, probably 2015, 2016. And so the co-working space in Telluride, Uray, Montrose, and Grand Junction is all owned by AltSpace now, and Brian and Bonnie Watson are their owners. And so we definitely work with them very closely. And have been, he's been connected with Conexion and actually was a technical assistance advisor when they were starting it. And then West End is with their program that we work closely with and the co-working space in Icelab. So it's definitely a network, and that's why we definitely want to continue to see it as a network. But with the vision of Brian and Bonnie Watson, they are truly trying to make it a western slope connection. and they're willing to do whatever they can to support Dixion.
You make it sound like this was almost easier than most, but there must have been obstacles. What were the biggest obstacles? Time, maybe you've said that, but what else?
I feel like time was the biggest obstacle. I mean, really. And maybe if we had more time, we would have, it wouldn't have worked. I don't know. I feel like, so what we talk about at Region 10, planning. You may think planning's really boring, but you want to be ready for opportunities when they come up because you don't always have a lot of time. So I feel like this is a product of a lot of planning and keeping our eyes and ears open and developing those relationships. And so I'm sure on those Saturdays and Sundays I was feeling obstacles. Michelle.
I would say what is normally an obstacle in these kind of grants are the partnerships. So these grants do require match, and this was a 20% match, which may not sound like a lot, except when you're applying for a $2 million grant, that multiplies really quickly. And so one of the things, as Trish mentioned earlier, and I just want to bring this out again, is that having those partners be willing to come in. So to be able to go to Montrose County and say, we'd like for you to come in with a significant level of match on this in 2 weeks, and for them to get that through the DOCC process, and for Delta County to be able to do that, and the town of Olathe to go to the bank and say, we would like for you to contribute to this project in a 2-week time frame, that's almost unheard of. I mean, I'll just say we're working on another grant that they said we want this money spent by June, and we need partners, and I was like, I can either spend the money, I can write the grant and we can spend the money by June, or we can develop partners, but we can't do both, because developing partnerships is usually about a 6 to 9 month, it's usually about that much time frame to get your stakeholders on board and be able to share the vision and move forward. So with this prior work and the great partnerships we already have, you know, with our counties and our communities and our governments, that was just really, as Sue said, that was part of the magic of doing the planning, knowing this was a great project for Olathe, and our partnerships come along saying, yes, that's a great project for Olathe, and we want to participate. I think that would have been a huge obstacle that just really became, as Sue said, the magic, I think, in the process is just being able to do that. Because normally that would be your big obstacle. How do you renovate a building, having the housing authority be able to get that through in 2 weeks? That is normally the obstacle that was just, that to me was the most, other than Trish writing and getting this really amazing grant, 1 out of 10 in the country. This was a highly competitive grant. Other than that, this partnership is just what always continues to amaze and impress me in our community.
But it also is the groundwork that Region 10 has laid for those partnerships. This is not, it's not like you had to call people like a
Yeah.
never met before and say,
Right.
hey. So I think, you know, that speaks to the community here. I think we're a pretty incredible community that have those open communication and those discussions as we go along. So it's not like you just go, hey, it didn't come out of left field. So
Right.
anyway, thanks.
Plus, I think what we're all catching here is the enthusiasm. I mean, you want to get on this train, because if you don't, you're gonna miss out. And so, yeah, you wanna be a part of something really, really good that's happening. Yeah.
And we were committed to the project. We had a backup plan for a backup grant that I was working on, that I had submitted to draft proposal to the project manager the day we found out. So we were committed to figuring out how to make this happen. Like, it was one of those that you knew, the stars aligned and you needed to make this happen.
Well, I'm excited. Yeah.
I just wanted to underscore that youth entrepreneurship camp, which I had the honor to speak at last year. And what kind of makes me excited about this, not kind of, but it does, is that there was a little girl selling cupcakes, and she had made her cupcakes, and that was going to be her business, and she was super excited. She totally ripped me off. but they're very expensive cupcakes, but worth it. But I sort of envision her as we, you know, Trish talks about growing your own. I bet she's gonna be using this commercial kitchen, you know, and that's where growing your own, we're starting to even see that now. So it's really exciting and it's very cool, so.
And on that note, I'm happy to see Valley Food Partnership. I was on their board at one time, and this is what we dreamed about when I was on that board, so I'm sure they're over the moon with this.
Yeah, we're excited about that partnership. It's interesting because I'm getting out and talking about this more, but I swear at every meeting I have someone come up to me afterwards. It's like, I've got this food business idea. I'm going to be utilizing that kitchen. So there's definitely the interest out there.
All right, we have time for one more question if anybody has one. Okay, Kathy, you want to talk about next week?
Before I do that, we've kind of gotten lazy about the microphone. And the reason we can hear in this room, but we have to remember that it's being broadcast. And we do have a lot of former forum people who still are not ready to come back, and they're watching. And the feedback I get from them is sometimes it's hard to hear. So if you feel like we're bugging you because you know everybody can hear, but we're making you use the mic, that's one of the real reasons we're doing that. Just a plug, and it's kind of ironic. I was doing a family wedding. It was one of my sons, and they wanted cupcakes. And they wanted me to make all the cupcakes. And I thought, I can do this, but where in the world will I store all these cupcakes? Because they said, you know, the frosting breaks down real quickly, you gotta get them frozen. I used the Montrose County Housing Authority commercial kitchen walk-in freezer to store all my cupcakes. And I walked in that freezer and went, oh my gosh, this is amazing in this building. So it will work. I'm proof of that, for sure.
Well, hopefully we'll see you back there.
I don't think I'll be doing that many cupcakes. Next week, we're doing an interesting program called Lending or Extending a Helping Hand. I think we're all familiar with the homeless in our community in terms of seeing them on the corners. We know they camp down by the river, but we don't talk a lot of times about those people on the margin, the people who almost make it, but not quite. They need food assistance, or they need a warm coat, or next week we're gonna focus on that, sharing ministries, Shepherd's Hand, Lighthouse, and which one am I missing? There are 4 of them. We'll be speaking, they'll each have 12 to 15 minutes to kind of tell you, beside homeless, what else they do to help those people on the fringes. So we want to give recognition to them, take some time out of our programming for them to speak. That's what you'll be listening to next week. We appreciate the faithful who keep coming back each week. And hopefully, as Phoebe mentioned, we've got some great programs planned for next quarter. They will somehow reach everyone's interest. Thanks.
Trish, one more time, Region 10, that was a great presentation. Thank you so much. We look forward to hearing when you have the grand opening. We'll be there, and not only will Olathe benefit from this, but Delta, Montrose, it will be a snowball effect in many ways. So, yeah, thank you.